Oh, I think we're live. I think, are we live?
They're going around with cooler bags handing out more ET coming up first.
Yeah.
I assume somebody can queue up.
You just got cute.
Cue me? Are you sure? Oh, okay. Comms are working then. Comms are working in the form of shouting. Hi, production. Hello, oh, geez, that is bright. This has been a while since I've done one of these. It's like 4 or 5 years since I did a panel on the Epic stage.
I think it's back when you had sofas.
Sofa. Oh,
You
those
had
dodgy
sofas,
IKEA,
yeah.
like 80 quid sofas that were like most uncomfortable thing. No, because I remember sitting on.
If it was
Chair.
5 years ago,
'Cause
the
there's like-
chairs will have been here.
Yeah, because there's like Hibbo, Broomy, Blue and Queenie.
That was upstairs as well, right?
No, it was here.
Oh, it was
definitely
downstairs.
here. Anyway, sorry. You lot don't care about that.
Implying that we do.
What?
What? No, sorry.
You don't care about my historical stories.
Play nice, Jacob.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'll start. Start nicely.
Anyway, we decided, seeing as we have a lot of education visits with us at the time, we've got people here from University of Northampton, Tresham College, people tuning in online, quite a few people from our own team from universities like University of Staffordshire.
Don't
they paid for that
start.
rebranding. And College of Esports. We figured let's make the most of those guests being here and talk a little bit about what's post-education? How do you get noticed by somebody like me, get into events like this and others? We will do the formal intros in a second, so that's just setting the scene a little bit, but we're going to start with a video that was released about a week ago from Crossed Arms GG, Jonas, who put together a documentary at EPIC47 about the routes that creatives can take. So we often focus on esports talent and players, but Jonas wanted to specifically focus on roles like photography and videography and how people who've come through EPIC have now gone on to much bigger and better things. So you'll see some familiar faces in this video. It's about 8 minutes long, so bear with it, but it's a really cool video. So yeah, take a look. Hello. Apparently you are just taking a look and not a look and listen. I assume we're going to come back to that in a second.
Voice over it.
Well, technically it was me at the start. If I could remember exactly what I said and lip sync.
Yeah, repeat it verbatim.
It was something about EPIC it's a 4-day holiday with gaming with friends, whether you play casually or competitively, something like that. I think at the
Now you got to
start.
do your Samby Dubs impression though as well.
I can't remember what Sam said in
You got to
his.
do like "My Tears Don't Fall." Sorry, Sam.
Are we ready to give that another go, do we think? No,
No.
we're not ready to give that another go. Huh? You don't have it? Well, it was there. I saw it. Somehow you downloaded it without audio. How did you manage? That takes a special set of skills. Okay,
All
well,
skills you can learn at
we'll
Epic
start, and then you can shout when you've got it downloaded with audio, but we'll do the intro part anyway to crack on. Well, I'll buy you some time. Don't worry, I'll fill for you, Phil. So, anyway, I'm John. I'm Managing Director of Epic. I've spoken to most of you in the audience, I think, through guest lectures and stuff. We'll tell our stories in a minute. So if you just who you are and what you do for now, and then after that, I'm going to ask us all to tell our stories as to how and why we're here and what happened or what went wrong.
Well, my name's Matt. I'm a former University of Northampton student, and currently I am production team leader at Epic LAN.
My name is Oti, or Benito. I am the production manager at Epic and I graduated from Staffordshire University.
No.
Staffordshire of University.
Get it right.
I refuse. If they're going to make it funny, I will make it funny.
Okay.
University of Staffordshire.
I'm loving all this like uni politics. I'm just like,
Yeah, what
sure.
uni did you graduate from, Jacob?
Well, I graduated from 2, so
Oh,
I can take it in order. I'll do
Whoa.
my intro first. I'm Jacob. Hello. I'm the Partnerships and Relationships Manager at Overclockers. So yeah, we're one of the partners. That's why I'm here. I graduated from Lancaster University and Staffordshire of University, apparently.
What, just before we get into the deeper stories, what did you all graduate in, Jacob?
Jacob graduated. My undergraduate was law. It was law with criminology, so I did a double major, and then my master's is in esports.
I graduated in esports.
I don't want to sound like I'm repeating, but I also graduated from esports.
There's a bit of a theme here.
Except I'm old, and when I graduated, esports didn't even exist as a term.
It was electronic sports.
Do you know what? Any of you know what?
Yeah, you did marketing, no?
No.
Oh, no, you did music, audio stuff, right?
Ooh,
Do you two know?
no.
Could you guess?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I would say media.
No.
We're a media student.
Jacob's closest so far.
What did you say, Jacob?
It's something
Audio.
music, audio, production-y stuff.
See, I would have gone towards business, personally.
So I graduated from the Kiel of University, if we did it that way around. So I was the rival. I was, Staffs versus Kiel and all of that. I was computer science and music technology, which is kind of ironic.
Interesting.
Because so look, we're not going to spend this whole panel discussing esports degrees. Like you're doing those, many of you are, and you're doing them for your own chosen reasons. I chose to do that degree combo because I wanted to do it. I didn't have a career in mind. In fact, my career plans got screwed up. I massively fucked up my A-levels, and originally I was going to do biochemistry. I wanted to be a proper science nerd. And I messed up my A-levels big time. So I took a year out. And the advice that was given to me was just go and do a degree that you want to do. Work out the rest later. You've got all of your life to work that out. This is the going into your story bit, so start thinking of your stories. So I did that, and I really enjoyed it. So obviously the computer science thing back then, there was a little bit on programming, there was a lot on networking, you can see where this is going, and the music technology side, there was a lot on audio production, so using PA kits. Yes, there was a composition element to it, but there was the tech behind that as well. And then I disappeared off to do marketing in sport and leisure for the majority of my career to that point. Did about 18 years in that industry before I became full-time in EPIC. And the first time I actually got to use the things that I studied for was on EPIC LAN. So without EPIC LAN in mind as an end goal, I actually studied two of the subjects that are fundamental to putting the event on in the networking side. My final year project, I wrote our first version of the LAN intranet. So again, for those who don't know, I spent my student loan on my first LAN party, buying all the servers and hardware for it, because it was a cheap loan back then. Sorry to those of you who are not having that experience these days. So I wrote the first iteration of our LAN management software. So I wrote our first pizza ordering system, because that's critical to putting on a LAN party. Very early day tournament system, ticket booking, seat picker, and all of that. And configured the network all myself. I'm not allowed to these days. The tech team won't let me anywhere near to it.
What's the link for the pizza order?
Yeah, I was going to say, we need to bring that back.
It was terrible, by the way. I've seen that the VT is ready, but we'll finish this section, then we'll come back
The
to it.
pizza was terrible, or the website was terrible?
No, the website was terrible. It was very badly coded from a standards point of view, so I'm told. But yeah, so I went off, did sport and leisure for about 18 years while having EPIC LAN as a hobby. The hobby grew. Like it wasn't esports back then. It was just Village Hall in Stoke, 50 people bringing the PC, lugging their CRTs there, playing games. And then had the opportunity to leave my job, and everyone said to me, you've grown EPIC LAN to the point where it's just on the cusp of becoming a business. Why don't you turn it into one? So me then having a payoff from my old job, which gave me a safety net, and time allowed me to turn EPIC into what it is now, and then the whole agency side that sits behind it. I could waffle on for hours about this, but we don't have it. But that's my brief story to how we got here and why. Basically, it was an accident. I did what I wanted to do. I enjoyed that time, and it kind of worked out all right. What's your story?
Well, in some ways, a little bit similar to yours. I didn't have quite as colossal a poor time with my A-levels, thankfully, but I had no idea what I wanted to do with myself going into uni. In fact, I didn't even want to go to uni. I only went because my mum was just looking around on the internet and saw an esports degree as a thing and said to me, "You like playing video games. Why don't you go and do this? You might enjoy this." So I said, "Okay, I'll go and take a look." And next thing I know, I am doing an esports degree at the University of Northampton. And it was actually probably one of the best decisions I made to go and do that, simply because even though I also had no idea what I wanted to do as a career, all the things that I did at A levels actually helped contribute to where I am now. So as I mentioned, I'm part of the production team. And at my A levels, I did digital media and computer science and business. But the digital media is what really helps me here, because that's sort of gave me the basic skills to be able to recognize some of the things that were going on. So when I was very lucky, like some of the students here, to come to Epic LAN 3 odd years ago and look around, I met a gentleman called Tex, who was at the time running the Valorant streams, and I sat with him, and I came back the following day and sat with him again, and he ended up letting me run the Valorant stream for about 6 hours while he had to run away and fix a fire somewhere. And then I got stuck here until 2 a.m. because my taxi cancelled on me. So thank you, Tom Shoots Video, for driving me back to my university. But ever since, I have been coming to Epic LAN, and I absolutely love it. I've turned it into a career path for me. I work as a freelance broadcast producer, replay operator, and technical director whenever possible. I've had the pleasure of working with John and the crew at Epic at events like EGX at MTM Comic Con back in October, which was fantastic, and the privilege of attending these Epic LAN events every 3 to 4 months. And I absolutely love it. It's been really defining for me on how the trajectory I want to take with my life, and the sort of things the incredible opportunities that you have to be able to meet these awesome people that never in a million years that you'd think you'd actually be able to meet. The people that you can meet at like things like EGX, and even here. I mean, we had the mayor of Kettering attending the event yesterday, which was incredible. He's going to be back again as well, actually, I believe today.
That all started from a social media meme, by the way.
Really?
It's me shitposting, yeah. That's literally the start of that story.
Oh, was this the we're going to claim
Yeah, that's
Kettering
the
as
one.
our own thing?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was funny.
Home of esports.
Home of esports, Epic LAN, Kettering. But yeah, no, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I really, absolutely no regrets. I loved it.
You had a slightly different route to get here, didn't you?
Yeah, mine was weird and fun. When I was super young, about 12, I was volunteering as an AV tech for a church that was put on in a cinema. So much of the skills that we use here, where we bring a bunch of equipment and then just start plugging things into a venue that's not typically suited for it, I learned at a very, very early age. And then I thought, you know what, I want to get into acting. So then I got a diploma into drama and acting for 2 years. And that landed me in a job in graphics design and web development. I'm not sure how much of this story you actually know. Yeah. So I was doing graphic design and web development for about 2 or 3 years. I got to a point in my life where I was like, I don't know, I'm just kind of going through the motions here. Similarly to you, John, my A-levels weren't really great. So I went to my brother's open day at Staff's uni and spoke to the course lead there at the time and was like, will I need to get my A-levels again to join whatever? I was just finding out some more information because I like gaming. I like esports, sure, whatever. And he said, yeah, why don't you show up next week? And I was like, really? He He's like, yeah, you're a mature student. Just show up next week. And I was
You're
like,
not that old.
I was 25 at the time.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, cool. So then I moved from London 2 days later. Student loan
to
3 days
Stoke.
later to Stoke-on-Trent,
Of all the places.
of all the places. And I started studying esports. And from there, I kind of used my AV tech skills to, quite comfortably go into production. But we really use that space as a place of exploration, really. And we put on lots of events, and a lot of them failed, and a lot of them sucked. And we also had help from some mentors, like Jacob, for example. And we also put on some really cool things, like the Alpine F1 Community Cup, which landed some of us with jobs. Hello there.
Hello, we can't see
The
you.
weakest
So.
woo over there in the back. And from there, I then ended up doing graphic design for the Alpine F1 sim racing team, and have come on with EPIC47 during my studies, just volunteering, and slowly worked way up to production manager. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
And again, outside of the Epic Line events, somebody that we work with regularly on
B2B
other productions
services,
and
yeah.
the agency side of what we do too.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think my story just lends itself to do stuff that you find interesting, and you'll fall in line with it, really.
And another one that's had a bit of a curveball route from law to now.
Yeah, I don't think any of us do traditional, right? So, my A levels were the opposite. I'm sorry, I was a bookworm. I was, traditional. I'm gonna do essays and all the writing stuff, and I always wanted to do law, like from when I was young. And I went to a college that was trying to push me to go to Cambridge and Oxford, and it was very traditionally laid out route. And yeah, it's what I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be a barrister. So I got a law degree at Lancaster. And then after 5 years of studying, I was like, do you know what? I'm kind of bored of this. It's 5 years now. All I've done is read textbooks and case law, and it was a lot. So I got to the end of my third year, and I had my master's in law. I had a teaching job lined up. I had a job with a law firm in Manchester. And I was like, I'm just going to keep looking just in case. And I stumbled upon the esports masters at Staffs. And for better or for worse, I signed up. We were sold one thing and we got another. But what I realized very early on was similar to what Oti said, is you had to make the best of it.
Yeah.
With all the things you did on the sides, it was never about what they gave you. It was about what you took, in a sense. And so with that, I was obsessed with League of Legends because I hate myself as well as doing a law degree, apparently. So I played League, and I was observing, actually. I was an observer in League, and I randomly messaged one of the staff's uni teams, like, I see you guys are streaming your games, your Newell and your NSE games every weekend, or every week. Can I just observe them for the stream for some experience? And that person who I spoke to later on went to work for John. And it's this whole story of weird chances, because I moved to where Epic's offices were without even knowing. I randomly saw them one day because they're across from the post office, and I was collecting a parcel. I was like, oh, that's Epic Line. I've heard of them. And I was someone on my course, used to volunteer at Epic as well. So it's a weird situation of chances. And then John had a job in partnerships. At the time, I was an estate agent because I had to pay my bills. It was awful. Don't do it. Stay in school, kids. But I was like, I do account management. I was looking after landlords with 500 properties. They were worth millions. I was a portfolio manager. I was like, I can look after people. If there's one thing I can do, it's I can make connections and I can look after people. And as I say, I knew the person who worked with John at Epic as well. So I just messaged her, what do you think? And she was like, just give it a go. Who knows? And I applied, and by some miracle, got this job. I still don't think John knows why to this day. But and then from there, Epic has been Overclock has been partnered with Epic now for 7 years. and this job became available, and I moved over to the tech side. So now I deal with the tech brands every day, like Intel and Asus, MSI, all the big global brands. And I went from a kid who wanted to do a law degree and be really boring and wear suits every day to someone with no experience in marketing to now being like pretty high up in one of the most established PC retailers in the country. So it's kind of like John says, it's been all over the place, but I landed where I was supposed to be, I guess.
I'm trying to think back. Did you cast for NSE while we were producing NSE finals? So did you have an encounter with us even before you got the role?
I actually fully forgot about that. Yeah, because we cast the Insomnia. It was at Insomnia, but we were remote. Me and Temporal.
There we go.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so John had hired me. Well, NSE and John had hired me. Yeah, so I cast Insomnia. I had forgot about that. So yeah, I briefly worked with John and the production team there, because that's why I was sort of doing freelance on the side, was casting, observing, production, pretty much anything I could do, kind of like you guys, right? I wanted to try everything. I found out I was okay at casting. I wasn't great, but I got to cast like some of the top teams in the UK and some of the European teams as well, so that was pretty fun. Yeah, I actually did forget that.
We should probably not talk too much about League of Legends this week, though. It's not been a good week.
I can start.
Let's not go there.
Quickly move on.
Yikes. I mean, we're going to talk about getting yourself noticed as one of the topics soon-ish. But yeah, I remember when your application came in, it wasn't an absolute cold application, because it was that guy that cast League of Legends for us a couple of years ago at NSE, and it's just, for me, just being on the radar, and I guess sort of where we'll go to next with the topic. So we're all people that have either chosen esports as I know the VT's still ready. It fits in nicely with my 5th bullet point. I'm getting words written to me on here in case you wonder why I'm like randomly
It's all right.
reacting to
He's
things.
apologised now.
John's just
sorry.
schizophrenic. He's got
It's,
voices in his head.
It's fine, don't worry. So yeah, we've all ended up here either by choosing that as an education option or falling in by accident. Very briefly, because again, this topic could go on for a long time. One of the reasons I asked Jacob onto the panel, and you two, is we hear a lot of criticism in the industry that there are too many esports education courses being... Don't worry, I'm not going to rip... I'm doing this the right way. We hear a lot of industry criticism that there are too many esports education programs being set up and not enough jobs for all of those people to go into. I intentionally asked Jacob onto the panel because Jacob is not working in an esports role, whereas you two are. I didn't for a while. But actually, there's everything else. Half the jobs we do for EPIC aren't esports jobs.
No.
Like, we have an NHS client,
Yeah.
which is nothing to do with esports. It happened that you've got a load of PCs, we need them for exams, can we rent your PCs? Because we actually need it's for X-ray exams and radiology. It's like, we need super high quality monitors to use for these exams, can we use your stock for it? So I guess the angle I'm going at here is, what opportunities are there for people once they've finished those education programs that are not necessarily the obvious esports routes? Because I'll be honest, quite often when we do year one visits with some of the university groups, we ask everybody, what do you want to be? Everyone wants to be a caster, everyone wants to be a player. But I think as you go through the 3-year program, you start to realize the breadth of roles and the opportunities that are out there. So ignoring playing and casting and the obvious roles, what can you do once you've gone through that education program that uses those skills, techniques, knowledge that you've picked up over those 3 years? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I can go first. Like I say, I now work in tech, like in PC hardware, which kind of naturally becomes esports adjacent because we work with esports orgs like Endpoint, and we've worked with some of the global orgs like Dignitas and Fnatic and stuff. We've sponsored events as well, so we end up esports adjacent without being in esports. And tech is a much older, maturer industry. Obviously, esports is, maybe 30 years max, whereas PC hardware and tech goes back a lot longer than that. So as far as an industry goes, it does feel a lot older and a lot more established. I don't work in esports production every day, but I still get to visit events like this and, DreamHack and things like that. So for me, I probably grew up and never would have thought I would have wanted to work in tech, like, selling PCs and stuff, but it's something that kind of happened by chance. And I still get that pleasure of being around the industry without directly being a part of it. So I think that's always one people forget, is like there are adjacent endemic industries like tech, which is kind of the obvious one for me.
I think personality traits as well is a really big one here, and like personal skills as opposed to professional skills. Quite a lot you'll find that majority of the roles, I mean, just take Epic Land for an example. Basically, almost every role you're in, you'll require at some point some form of problem solving, some form of communication skills, you know, the ability to timetable and plan your time. You know, it's really important to be able to be like secure in your own ability to do basic things. And I think that translates quite a lot between different roles because, you know, Jacob is a great example of this because he literally said it himself. He knew that he was good with people, and so that's why he wanted to sort of move into a partnerships role where he was able to deal with people, and that ended up taking him into esports. Like, if you've got a skill or a trait that you're particularly good at, you know, try and find a career in that role. And if you, I basically guarantee you that if you look hard enough, or maybe even make it yourself, you'll be able to find something either adjacent to esports or in esports that you'll be able to put that skill towards.
Yeah, I mean, a good example of that is just because, you know, you learn production at an esports course doesn't mean it's directly related to esports. We have quite a lot of people. I mean, there was a decent amount of people from my course who went into sports production for quite a lot of football matches. And we even have some production members who are regulars of Epic Land who are currently working the Olympics.
Yeah.
So it's really about how you use the course and how you use those skills rather than what it's for.
Yeah, he's not here this event, but Thomas Red works full-time at NEP, and NEP works on some of the biggest global sports and political broadcasts, royal weddings, and all sorts. And he often says it's that initial experience of Epic Land that got him ahead when he was applying for those. Phil back there as well went the opposite route. Sorry, Phil, going to drag you into this. But Phil didn't train in esports. He trained in a traditional media and broadcast route, but now, again, as a fan, gets to work on esports projects, but also the weekend before that, he may have been at a football stadium, you know? So I the production side's definitely got those crossover skills.
I think online particularly, people are really hell-bent on the definitions of I am an esports producer or that kind of thing. You know,
it's very black and white to a lot of people.
I think realistically, you can do whatever you want when the chance and opportunity arises.
Yeah, there's so many transferable skills, and again, we could spend hours on this, but I think we've had conversations before. I wish quite often people will opt for the esports obvious roles like esports producer, esports observer, but if you think of all of the things involved in an esports production, Hayden at the back there on audio, that's the same audio desk you'll find in a theatre, at a live music event. The techniques are exactly the same. The comms panels are used on other broadcasts, you know, so yeah, there are some really obvious, I don't know where I'm going with this. There are some really obvious roles that you can take those transferable practical skills to, but then in Jacob's case, it's literally taking personality skills across.
Yeah, and I think, like, you guys, the three of you are always going to go to production because it's what you all specialize in.
Yeah.
John knows this more than anyone. If I touch anything backstage, it breaks immediately. And I'm not even joking. It's actually embarrassing.
Yeah, he's banned. He's not
Actually,
allowed.
Production for me is recent. So I never used to have any interest in broadcast production whatsoever. I was thoroughly event management for a while, and possibly COVID was one of the things where we realized we had to pivot and change what the business looked like, and we had to get ahead and be ready for remote production quickly. I think that's the point where I started getting into production, and then again, learning more on the production management side of things. I'm a fan of logistics, project management. That's, you know, some of the more complicated projects we've worked on are the most fun to me, despite them being stressful. But yeah, the technical side of broadcasts I've only recently started learning because I've kind of had to, because it's the direction we've gone.
I mean, it takes us to weird places because we did a cooking show.
We did do a World of Warcraft cooking show, which actually, is Sammy still at the back? I don't know where he is. That's where I met Sammy from Holy.
Yeah.
By the way. Do you remember Sammy from that?
I do,
Yeah, he's the influencer manager on that show. So Again, strange world.
I mean, you've even just mentioned there influencer management, right? Like, how many adjacent roles are there? Player management, talent management,
Team management.
marketing, like even like chefs. Esports teams have chefs now. They have like
Yeah.
lawyers, solicitors,
Yep.
like they have legal
Accountants.
people. Like this industry is like, don't just gatekeep yourself in an industry that like is so broad now. There's so much depth to this industry.
There is. Going to move on because we don't have loads of time left, and I do want to get the VT and some Q&As in. The next topic is a little bit about, again, so we said there are thousands of people going through esports education, limited number of roles. When I put a job out, all of our jobs go out fairly transparently. They get advertised on the website. We have open application processes, and we get swarmed with hundreds of applications. I'm the one that has to sift through, and decide which of those applications I'm even going to interview. If I get 100 applications, I may interview 8 people out of those. It's a pure time thing. It's about as many interviews as I can fit into a day. And then obviously one person gets the job. How do I go from 100 plus applications down to one person to get that job? How do you stand out? One of the things we're going to show on this VT, which is apparently ready, is how you use events like this in creative industries to get yourselves noticed. And there's a very good example in this video of somebody who's wandering around with a camera right now and how they got themselves noticed. So can we have a look at the VT with audio now?
So EPIC is, I would say, a 4-day gaming holiday. Whether you game seriously, whether you game just with friends, it's a way of getting away from the house, meeting up with a load of other people. That gaming happens to be at the heart of that. It's 4 days away.
Get the fuck down! Down! Come on!
Usually, when we talk about the future of UK esports, we think of massive stadiums or sold-out arenas in London. But if you actually want to see where the next generation of esports talent is being built, well, for that, you have to go to a sports hall in Kettering. EPIC LAN is UK's largest LAN, but it's not run by some massive corporation. It's run by a community that puts people and their development over massive profits first. For creatives, well, it's basically the industry's primary incubator. It's a place that actually removes the usual barriers to entry and gives newcomers a real, structured environment to start building their career paths.
I would say EPIC LAN's unique because we've maintained the community feel. Ever since we started 23 years ago, we are a group of 79 people this event who just come together to put on a cool event.
For someone to start their career, they need a base to build on. They need them foundations. So EPIC LAN is that place for a lot of people, but not only can they build up all their skills, their knowledge and their communication, but it's also a safe place to do so.
Behind the scenes, not necessarily from a player's point of view, we've always said EPIC LAN is the first stepping stone for people to work at live events, to get in front of a camera in a real life event. It's the same for the players, I guess. The players, it's quite often the first event they will attend out of their bedroom in playing online leagues to turning up and playing at an event. That then, the experience here then starts to prepare teams, players, backstage staff, creative staff for what it's like on a much bigger stage.
Without the grassroots scene, it's so much harder for people to get that break in their career. It's almost like if you're a music artist, you play your pubs and your bars and that kind of stuff. You don't just play Wembley Stadium. It's without that base level that's like a stepping stone and a comfortable one to do so. Unfortunately, it creates a scene where people can't enter.
Grassroots is often misunderstood. It isn't about being an amateur. It's about having the right foundation to grow. Every creative needs a base level to build on. Well, those foundations that let you actually grow as a creative. EPIC LAN basically functions as a live event classroom where you're working with the same high-end gear you'd find at major events. It is a really rare environment where you're allowed to make mistakes and get professional one-to-one feedback and learn from the people who have been doing this at the highest level for years.
I think from a crew point of view, I think the ability to make mistakes here is really, really important. You can learn very, very practically. You get to play with some of the same sort of toys and systems and setups that would use on much bigger events, but so you can get it wrong here. The way our whole broadcast production creative setup has evolved over the last few years is because people want to come and get that experience here. And again, you can make mistakes. This is where you can practice in a live environment. Take photography for an example. This is a really hard environment to take photos in, and we have a lot of people who have come through the doors, learnt here, and then gone on to much bigger events globally.
The EPIC in February had the violinist. I took a pretty cool shot, one of my favorites. But also, I think like my favorite one, I think it was a CS final in February as well. I just got a cool moment with the caster, like just showing pure emotion, and it looked really cool, in my opinion.
But EPIC does give me that stepping stone to honestly to become a better caster and honestly master, because there's a lot of experienced casters and a lot of legends have come through, like Machine. You got James Banks. Honestly, like, I want to relive the path like they've taken to get to tier 1, which I'm hoping to strive for. Like, it helped me get the exposure that I needed. It helped me reach out to more teams, and it actually showed, like, when I reach out to other TOs, like, if you need a cast, I've done this event. EPIC is quite a big renowned name. Me mentioning that does help me have more of a boost in my credibility. Shows like I can cast for long hours, I can do many games at a time without having a burnout, but have a good decent amount of knowledge of CS and the UK scene as a whole. And it helped me reach out to more teams. For example, like I get the chance to cast over teams, make a little bit more money on the sides because of EPIC LAN. It can help me financially and my exposure in both ways.
The real proof that this works is actually written in the credits of almost every major international broadcast you see today. The journey from literal cleaning cupboard in Kettering to the world's biggest stages isn't just a legend. It's a well-tested path walked by some of the most respected names in the industry. And because the tech and standards here keep moving forward, the caliber of talent coming out of this room is more ready for the world stage than ever before.
Even in this venue, I remember Pansy and Machine commentating, it would have been COD 4, and it was from a cleaning cupboard just down that corridor because we didn't have this sort of setup back then. We found a room where they store tables, chairs and cleaning equipment. We worked with a broadcast company at the time called Quad V, who are still kind of around under a different name. And yeah, you've got globally famous names in a cleaning cupboard in Kettering. James Banks was interviewing here before he got picked up. There's one particular guy, I can't remember which event it was, but on our photo library, there is one event where you've got people like Richard Lewis, Pansy and Machine, Medic and Ex-Scoundrel, and all happen to be at one event. And when you look at where all of those people are now, that's mad.
Yeah, the first person that comes to mind would be Sophie Skittles. She started at EPIC LAN quite a few years ago, and ever since she has been absolutely killing it in the esports scene. I'm sure she's known by a lot of people. She's looked up to by everyone in the content team, even people that have never met her. But it's amazing to see the stuff that she kind of gets up to today. Not only working with massive companies, but doing it across the world is really, really cool.
Oh my God, I don't think I wouldn't be where I am without it, honestly. Like, I think even just from, I made like good relationships with the sponsors at LAN, and then that's kind of what got me then from doing EPIC LAN to like the bigger events, because I started then getting hired by the actual sponsors, and then that just sort of got my name out there and got me onto doing all the other events. So definitely it's just like taught me how to network, taught me how to make the right relationships, and also just with like the marketing side of things as well, which is a very important skill, I feel, as well, which I'm very grateful for.
When you spend a weekend at an event like this, it becomes pretty clear that the real creative heartbeat of esports starts right here at the grassroots level. EPIC LAN isn't just another tournament on the calendar, it's the engine room for the entire UK scene. It's where the photographers, on-screen talent and broadcast crews who bring this industry to life find their first real opportunities. Because the reality is, before you can ever reach the cathedral of esports, you have to survive the sports hall in Kettering.
I love that video.
That was great.
I had no idea I was in that video.
Did you not?
I did not even know that video existed.
Oh, there you go. Now you do. I think the overall theme of that, and generally, is getting yourself noticed. Like, whether it's learning how to network. There was a conversation about an hour ago, Jacob, where I asked one of our casters was asking me for advice on seeking sponsorship and partnership for their events. So go and speak to Jacob. Like, he's right here. And I took the time to show him our pitch decks and how we approach that from an Epic Land point of view. Like, use the people around, use the skills. But I guess going back to that point about me as an interviewer and as a recruiter, I am always going to look. You'll see it on all of our jobs that go out, unless it's something super specific, it will always say, I don't really care about qualifications. What I'm looking for is the experience and the skill set and the personalities that go with that. Now, that's not to say I'm ruling out education, saying that's there as the baseline, but what have you done over the past few years that's above and beyond that to stand out? Whether that is volunteering at an event like this, obviously that is a massive plug for Epic Land, but even somebody who's done something with their esports society, like run a tournament within their esports society or being a player within that society, joined an esports team. I will even put people who've just attended events like this, not even volunteered and taken part of it, just turned up, people who go and watch and consume esports. Even if you put on your CV that you watch Twitch every night, that shows to me that you're interested and genuinely passionate about this. If you just go, I've studied it, I've got these qualifications, cool, so do the other 99 applicants. It's showing that you really want this to me. I guess anything to add to?
I think I do a lot of the recruiting in terms of Epic Land crew for production, and I think, we get a lot of student applications, and there's 3 keywords that come up on pretty much every application, which is, I want to network / make friends, I want to learn, and I want to grow my skills. But they don't actually tell me what they want to do. They don't say, oh, I'd like to be a producer, or I have tried observing in the past. And I think what is really key, specifically coming from a esports degree myself, is, like you say, how do you use it? Don't just say, oh, well, we did this one thing for my course, X, Y, Z, because I think, although it's great, ultimately you had to do it for your course. What did you do in your free time to really push yourself and to really experience what it's actually like without, being graded on it, and the key requirements for what that event is? That's what I look for, and it's just that one thing. I just need one thing from you.
And the brutal thing is, when you're applying for roles in the future, you've got to get that part across on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
You've got to, like I said, hundreds of people don't even make it to an interview.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to write about yourself in a way that catches my interest very, very early on. Once you get to the interview, cool, we can chat about all of those things in more detail, but I need to see something that just makes you stand out above all of the others. And the academic side alone isn't going to do that. It's, and like I say, just anything. Think of any hook that you've got that puts you ahead of other people. It's a competition.
Even recently had an interview with someone who said that they don't have any experience, they don't have any prior knowledge to esports, but they asked at EGX, which we were doing, to come backstage, and then they spoke to one of our team members. Yeah. I was like, cool, let's have a chat.
You've shown an interest.
Exactly.
Sorry, Matt, or Jacob, do either of you want to add to that before we do a quick Q&A?
Yeah, just quickly. I think contextualization is really important here as well. If you're able to say, like, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, I want to network or I want to learn.
No, not at all.
But it's only when you provide the context and expand upon it that it becomes something we want to read and notice, as opposed to something we want to overlook. Because if you say, I want to come and network because, I've been told that it's good, or I got taught that that's what I'm supposed to do, then that's not showing us that you really know what you're looking to do. You're just doing what you've heard that you should do. But if you say, I'm looking to come to Epic Land, for example, to network with overclockers, to maybe seek a partnership for this organization that I play for at university, that shows us that you've got a reason that you want to come. Or if I'm looking to get involved in UKEL, and I want to get some experience adminning. It's trying to just add some expansion upon the points that you're making. Every point is valid. We don't just overlook something because you've said it. It's about how you've developed upon it that really catches our eye. I think that goes to your point, John, about it's not about necessarily the qualification, but the way in which you present your interests and what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to gain from applying for this role, be it paid, voluntary, or anything in between.
Cool. We are very nearly out of time. Oti, do you fancy going for a little wander?
Oh, fine.
We have like 2 or 3 minutes just for like maybe say two or three key questions, because I know that the university and college groups have got another set of shadowing to do shortly. So does anybody want to ask us anything while we're here? Oti will come and poke a microphone at you.
Don't be shy. We don't bite.
This is your one time to ask John Winkle
Well, it's not,
anything.
though, is it?
It's not your one time.
There's a lecture a few weeks ago where you got to, but...
So one of the questions I have is mainly, so personally I do a lot of graphics design. I enjoy graphics design, third year at Northampton. I was just thinking, what sort of path is there, particularly with Epic LAN, regarding just graphics design, marketing? Where do you stand on that in terms of volunteer teams, and what does the path look like afterwards?
Well, there is someone who does a lot of the graphics for Epic LAN that we use on stage. His name is Brandon. He has created a large majority of the graphics that you'll see on the streams and on the screen behind me throughout the last, well, as many events as I've attended. Be it just little tweaks on stuff that existed that John and other people have made, to entirely brand new elements. These are things that not many people are able to do to a high quality. Anyone can make a box in MS Paint and stick some text on top of it, but very few people have the ability to truly create something that really looks and stands out, looks incredible, and also fits to brand as well, which is really important. So there's definitely a path to it. I've met some very talented people, so...
And I think, like, similar to when I'm recruiting for talent, if anybody's ever applying for a graphic designer role, first thing I'm going to want to see is a portfolio, either of stuff that you've done for yourself, for a team you've been involved with, for a hobby. So having things in a portfolio, I would expect, again, if I had an application land on my desk for that, I would expect to see a portfolio attached, whether that's digital or traditional. I guess from an Epic LAN point of view, yes, there's the broadcast graphics side. But our content team is wider than photography and videography as well. Again, it's social media assets. So again, it could be worth a chat with Sam wherever he is to see if there's something we can do around the content team. He's waving over there, whether there's anything we do around the content team as well. But yeah, make sure you've got a portfolio.
Anyone else?
Can maybe do one more, if there is any.
No.
You don't have to.
Come on, surely there's one more person with a question.
No. Here we go.
It's good. Just bully them into.
I don't want to be too blunt with this question, but of course a lot of people do university degrees to get higher paying roles. So what would it look like getting a high paid role in esports, and how hard is it to achieve?
Very. I'd say esports is quite an immature industry, if I want to be really blunt in return. Esports is an industry that has grown bottom up rather than top down. It's something that originated in people's bedrooms. It wasn't an established industry like traditional banking or marketing, etc. So esports has established itself by, to be honest, everybody starting off volunteering. And that does not then become conducive to higher salaries and charging in the future unless you get the very, very small top end of the pyramid jobs. Similarly, again, without getting on to certain topics this week, there have been a lot of esports companies that have acted extremely irresponsibly over recent years and potentially overpaid some roles beyond their funding. The only place there seems to be big money coming into esports are massive investors who just want to splurge money on a project as a vanity project and then expect to see a return and then don't get it, or a certain country investing a lot into esports for whatever their reasons are. So unless you manage to find those two routes into esports, I'm going to be blunt, it ain't a high-paying industry compared to equivalent roles in others.
Can I ask a follow-up question
Sure.
to that? Of course, esports is growing. It's a growing industry. Is that something that you see changing in the next 10 years?
Go on, what have you got?
Well, I was going to be maybe pessimistic, but with an optimistic twist. It's only going to get worse before it gets better. And that's how I think a lot of people haven't seen young industries yet, because we're still early on with AI, right? We're still early on with cryptocurrencies, but we didn't, as a generation, see the boom of like technology or like the post-war industry, like, because none of us are old enough, right? But esports right now looks bleak for a lot of people. Like John says, there are orgs not paying. There are people who are like using this industry to propel themselves for the wrong reasons. But these are the people, these are the events that are going to, in 10, 15, 20 years, that are going to solidify that basis, that are going to give you those high-paying roles. So, like, long-term, potentially, but no one can say. But I will say, more than anything, Matt and Oti are a big part of this, and John as well. This industry is about passion first and pay second. And to be honest, it's pay 9th, 10th, 11th, like, because there's sleepless nights and all this. Passion has to come first. So I think right now, that has to be like how we all see this industry, because you know the money in tech isn't there either, and if the money's not in tech, it's not in esports. So we all just have to, unless you're selling RAM, that is just going well.
So there was a lot of the phrase esports winter being used in the last couple of years. I think we're out of that, like globally. I think we are back to growth again. A few years ago, my concern was that there were way too many esports companies popping up and everything was dividing, everyone was competing against each other. I knew that bubble was going to burst and there was going to be a contraction in the number of esports companies. What I didn't expect back then, and again, you all know I'm talking about Saudi investment fund, ESL, Faceit, and etc. What we now have is everything being absorbed into one big entity, and I worry. Ultimately, out there in terms of tier 1 TOs, you've really got EFG and Blast. And I would be scared for the industry if either of those collapse, because you look at the sheer number of events and roles that would disappear overnight if either of those two companies fail. I don't want that to happen, by the way. Like, I think there are some brilliant things being done. And we've got DreamHack coming to the UK in a couple of weeks' time. I think people forget that DreamHack is an EFG-owned brand. It is part of that family of companies. That is a good thing for the UK to have DreamHack here. It's its second attempt, by the way. It's not the first time DreamHack's been to the UK. So there is good stuff happening. I just worry, like anything, it's a lot of eggs in one basket. And that's pumping a lot of money in right now. That money will stop at some point, and then what happens? Has everything else grown? Like Esports Nations Cup should be fantastic for the countries involved in that, as long as it doesn't burst. That's my concern. However, I am going to have to wrap up there, because we're now going to put the Northampton and Tresham students back into groups to carry on with the shadowing. Quick thank you to my panel members, Jacob, Oti, and Matt, for joining me for chatting for an hour. As always, thank you to the production team. Next up on stage, I don't know if I'm ruining the hosts segment next, but Staff versus Community is happening on stage, and this time it's Valorant.
It is.
I don't know how that's going to go. We'll see if the staff retain. Chaos, probably. And then talking AI, after that, we have an anti-AI painting segment happening on stage a bit later today as well, called Croc.
Yeah.
We can thank Benito for that wonderful name.
I don't know what you're talking about.
My logo was lovely there.
The logo's great.
Cool. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Enjoy the rest of EPIC LAN.
Thank you very much.
Soon.